Hi guys, Olivia here, Pumpkin Hollow Quilts. Today is Friday, February 26th, and I am back for my stitching update. It has been 2 weeks since my last one, so I hope you've all been well, and you've been stitching and making and creating all of the things. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. This is a video podcast about cross-stitching and sometimes quilting. However, if you're not interested in seeing or hearing about the quilts, I show those in the second half of my video, and I let you know in plenty of time that they will be making their appearance, so that way you can go on to the next Flosstube video. If you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. So I ended up having to pause the video for a few minutes because my brother, who is a owner-operator, he owns a semi-truck, and he knows I do my videos on Fridays on like every other, he just knows I do my videos on Friday. And he must have saw the way that I have the curtains, knew what I was in here doing, and he hit his jakes and went across the, by the house with the jakes billowing and all the things. And of course, Freddie was like, what? And so he was up on the back of the couch and he was barking, and it was fun. Anyway, so the last couple of weeks have been a little unorthodox, to say the least. I believe in my last video, I had filmed it earlier in the day, and I find that I do like to film earlier in the day. I tried to do it with this video and it didn't work out so well, but that particular video, I filmed it earlier in the day because we were supposed to, well, we had had freezing rain. So everything around here was covered in about a 1/4 inch of ice. And they told us there was a possibility we might lose power for a little while. But the freezing rain was supposed to transition into snow, and we were going to get 2 to 20 some inches depending on who you talk to. So what we had done was the day before, Brian had went grocery shopping and he fully stocked us because we were supposed to get this winter weather that was going to last 5 days. We were going to get snow over the course of the 5 days. And so we wanted to be prepared because there was one year where we were not prepared, and Brian and I had to hoof it up to the gas station to get some bread and milk. And we had gotten so much snow, it was piled up on the side of the roads, and so we had to walk through knee-high snow. And so that we definitely did not want to have a repeat of that. So he went and he fully stocked our refrigerator. And we were prepared for it to snow and still have our power and heat and all that on. Well, what ended up happening is the freezing rain continued all day and all night, and at about 8-9 o'clock, it really increased, and some of the trees started breaking. My brother lost power. They had a power line that was actually down in their driveway. And across the road, there's a mobile home park. And the mobile home park is surrounded by old growth oak trees. And you could hear them cracking and breaking. You heard it fall on a house. And these poor people, they not only took a direct hit of one tree, but another tree went this way, and they had to be evacuated. Like the whole place had to be evacuated because the trees were falling and were, going through their roofs and things like that. So about, I guess it was like 10:45, our tree started to crack and lose its upper limbs. One of the limbs that we were kind of watching did break, and it actually hit the patio roof, broke in two, and then part of it speared right through it. And so we have 2 holes that we have to go out and patch up. We have a ton of mess out there. My dad had some tree branches that fell down. I think there's one tree that's gonna have to be cut. But we still had our power at 11 o'clock Friday night. And then Saturday morning, we lost power. And we were originally told we would only lose power for like a day, maybe 2. Which was good. We're like, okay, that's fine. We can handle that. And we ended up losing power for 7 days. So because we live in the country, when we lose power, that means the well shuts off, everything shuts off. So we had no power, no water, no heat, nothing. We had nothing. And after like the second or third day, when they told us that our power was probably going to be out for more like a week, we decided to take some of the animals. My son has a lizard and my daughter has 2 birds, and we took them over to my dad's. My dad let us borrow a camp stove, so at least we were able to get some warm food. But it was very, very cold, and it ended up being like 37 degrees in the house. It was awful. There was one day where we found a hotel room, and so we decided to spend the night in a hotel room. That way I was able to do some laundry. We were able to get warm. Freddie hated it. He hated it. Like, he hated it. It upset his stomach. It just, even though we were in a warm place, I just wanted to go home. Even though it was going to be cold and miserable, I just wanted to go home because I knew Freddie would be fine once we were at home. So came home, and what we would do during the day is we would leave, we would charge up everything. I charged up the lights that I use for my YouTube videos. I charged those up, and we would charge every device we could, so at least we had some way of like making light in the evenings. Played a lot of games. We just tried to do our best to pass the time. And then on Friday, we went over to my sister-in-law's house so we could get some puddle water for the toilet, so we could at least flush the toilets. And so we would go over there like every day to fill up our 5-gallon container with water so we could flush the toilets. And we went over there, and she had called PGE, and she said that where we live, the substation was fine, but the work that had to be done was like very labor intensive, and it would probably be another week before we would get power. So that was not happy news. And they also were in the same boat. For them, where they live about 4 minutes from me, 5 if you hit the light. And where they lived, the power poles, just one after another, had come down like toothpicks. And so they were looking at much longer than us without power. So we made a pact. Whoever got power first, the other ones could go over there and take a shower and get water and do laundry and all of that. So we left her house and we went into Silverton to run some errands, and just kind of disheartened, even though, after a week you kind of get like in a routine. But it definitely was not news that we were looking forward to. Everybody in our area had no power. By Wednesday, parts of the town where I live had power, and then other little areas and towns had power. But for the majority of us that live out in the country, nobody had power. So, but we had pretty much resigned ourselves that our power was going to be out for much, much longer. And we went into Silverton, we got some lunch, and then I decided that I wanted to stop by the hardware store to get another lantern. I just wanted to get some more lights. We also looked for candles, but they were fresh out. And at first, like when you first go into someplace, like earlier in the week, we had to go in, we had like multiple layers of clothing. And you just go in and you're like, oh my God, I hope I don't run into anybody that I recognize, because no makeup, hair's dirty, it's pulled back into a ponytail or a bun or whatever, and you feel crappy. And you go in there and everybody else looks the same way as you because everybody else doesn't have power, and it was so sad. It was so sad. But so we went in, and this is the urban, like the new. Like, I am really excited because I have like an urban family legend that I'm going to start telling my family and my grandchildren, and they're going to tell their children. It's going to be like this urban family legend that's going to get passed down for generations. I'm very excited. The only good thing to come out of the snowpocalypse or the icepocalypse is this story. Here we go. So we left my sister-in-law's house feeling very sad, and we went over to the hardware store after we ate some lunch, and I looked at the clock, and I remember looking at the clock. It was 12:45 in the afternoon. Okay, so lunch was over at 12:45 p.m. and I open up the door to the car, I hand Freddie to Allison, and I get out and I see something shiny on the ground, and I look down, and it's this penny. Okay, so this penny's laying on the ground and it's heads up. And so, as we all know, see a penny, pick it up. All day long you'll have good luck, and then you get to make a wish because it's heads up. So that's what I did. Put it in my pocket, we'd go about our day, and we went over to my brother's house. They were having candlelight pizza, so we went over there. So at least we were able to have some laughs. My dad was there. And so, you know, we were just trying to make the most out of a good situation. They had a generator, so they did have a space heater, so we were able to like warm up a little bit. And then we went home to our cold, cold house, and we just decided to go to bed. We were like, we don't even want to stay up. So we all went to bed, and I decided to stay up and read my book. And I had my flashlight that I use when I'm out quilting to look underneath the quilts. I had it on my nightstand shining up at the ceiling, and I was able to lay and read my book. So Allison comes in at like 10 o'clock, 10:15, and she said, "Mom, I think they're out there working on the power line. I can hear them out there. They're out there." And so I looked, I didn't look that time. But she said, "You know, I think they're down there working." She goes, "I can see their lights." And I was like, "Oh, it's probably just an assessor, you know." That's all we had seen were like these assessors going around just assessing all the damage. But we didn't actually see, like in our area, we didn't see anybody working. And I think that's also kind of what kind of bummed us out a little bit. Because I think if you would have saw people working, then you'd be like, okay, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be soon. It's gonna be okay. Even if it still was several days, at least you had something positive to focus on. So she comes in like 15 minutes later, and she's like, "Mom, they're working on the power line. He's going up on the pole." And so I got up and I looked, and sure enough, there they were working on one of the poles. And I thought, well, that's awesome. You know, I'm like, oh, okay, at least they're out there working, you know. We probably won't get power, but at least it's something to like give us hope. So I laid awake and I read until about 11, and then I went to sleep. And then my phone rings at 12:45. So this is a.m., 12:45 a.m. My phone rings, and it's Portland General Electric telling me that my power has been restored. And so I get up and I look, and sure enough, the neighbors' lights were on. And so Brian and I, so when the power had went off, we'd flipped all the breakers because they warned us about power surge. And so we ran to the garage, flipped everything on. The house roars to life. We celebrated. Oh my gosh, did we celebrate? And it took us a while to like settle down. I think we were all awake most of the night because we were just, you know, we were celebrating. We were so happy. But then as the house started to warm up, we were losing layers because, you know, I had 2 full layers on of clothing, plus I had a sweater on and a hat and gloves, and we had like 8,000 blankets on the bed, and so we were like losing layers as the house started to warm up. And then finally we were able to fall asleep, but then began the great cleanup. So the next day, you know, my grandma had come over, and I jokingly said, you know, "Do you want my lucky penny?" Because it brought us luck. I mean, our power came back on. It wasn't supposed to for a week. She's like, "Nah, it's okay." But then I got to thinking about it. I found the penny at 12:45 p.m. and at 12:45 a.m. the power came back on. So an urban legend is born. And I'm planning on framing my penny, and I have a cute little frame for it. I bought the frame a long time ago. I have no idea why I got it, but it's perfect. And I'm gonna frame it, and I'm gonna like put it out so that anytime someone comes over, I'm gonna tell them the story about the lucky penny, and then it will become a family legend. I'm very excited for that. Anyway, I know that this is a very long intro, but I had to share the story because so many of you guys were reaching out to me, and you know, because I wasn't, you know, active on social media. You know, it's basically because I was conserving my data. But thank you to everybody who reached out to make sure that we were okay. You know, we've recovered, but I know I won't take for granted ever again being able to flush a toilet or have power or heat or all of that. So we made it through. And that's all that matters. We made it through. There's still a lot of people in my area without power. There are power companies from all over the United States that are working out here now. We followed a truck from Vermont the other day. So they came a long ways to help us, and so that's really, really awesome. All right, so as you know, I do all of my stitching in a 2-week window. Last week, I did not do so well stitching-wise. I think I stitched 2 days out of the whole week. And it ended up being on Liberty's Welcome because I found that if I sat in front of the window that's in front of me in the afternoon, I was able to sit down and stitch and I could see it very well. I tried to stitch on Olga, but I don't know if it was just too overcast or what it was, but I had trouble seeing her, so it just ended up being Liberty's Welcome. And that is Liberty's Welcome by Plum Street. I started this January 1st, and I'm stitching this with Yvette. And Yvette was so sweet. She waited for me to catch up because she was a little bit ahead of me. And then she stopped and went and worked on some other stuff so I could catch up. And I've caught up with her now, and she's working on Liberty this weekend. But here is my progress. So I'm stitching this on a piece of a 36 count Heartland by Picture This Plus. I'm stitching it with all of the called for DMC that is converted on the chart. I'm stitching this 1/2. And the question that I get asked the most, which this video is a little bit, not necessarily all over the place, but usually I have everything sort of segmented, and I think in this particular video I might end up, you know, like for instance, the question that I get asked most, it reminded me of it when I held this up because I posted a picture of this and I had somebody ask me this question. So the question that I get asked a lot is, how do I get my linen to look so crisp in my videos or when I post a picture on Instagram? Do I stitch in hand? How do I do it? So I do not stitch in hand. I stitch on a Q-snap or a scroll frame. Although I am finding that I enjoy stitching with my scroll frame a lot more than the Q-snap. And so whenever I save up a little bit of money, I plan on replacing the Q-snaps, the 2 Q-snaps that I'm using for this one and Olga stocking, with 2 scroll frames. But what I do is when I am getting ready to take a picture or when I'm doing my YouTube video, I will take them out of, you know, what they're in, and then I lay typically a tea towel or some sort of a clean towel that does not have any stains on them, and I will lay that on my ironing board, and then I will take the stitched piece and I will put it face down, and then I will iron it. If I get a pesky wrinkle that can't come out, I use some Best Press, and you can pick up some the Best Press at Joann's. That's where I typically get it, and I will spray it on the back side. I will spray it on the wrinkle, and then I will go ahead and iron it. I haven't had, you know, because this is DMC, it's not gonna run, but I do use it on my the over dyed. I don't saturate it. I just spritz it on it and then I quickly iron it. Again, I'm not like saturating it. Usually it's just like a quick little spritz and then I'm ironing it very slowly. So as soon as it's almost as soon as it hits the linen, I'm drying it off. So, but that is what I use to get everything all nice and crisp looking. I did try to stitch in hand once upon a time, and I just couldn't. I'm too I like everything to be nice, and I like to be able to see it, and I tried, but I can't ever get the stitches to lay just right. And I know that again there's like a learning curve to it. And I don't want to say, oh, I'm never going to do it, because who knows, I could decide in a month from now to, you know, try to stitch in hand again. But I just find that I like being able to see the whole project. I do stitch two-handed, so I enjoy doing it that way, where I can stitch with both hands. I also get asked, how do my stitches lay so nice and even? I will, particularly with these projects, I'm only using 1 strand of floss, but when I do use 2 strands of floss, when I am coming up, I usually will take the needle and split the threads and go back into the hole. and that's how they're able to lay nice and flat. And if I see one that's like sort of twisted, I'll just take the needle and kind of like foof it. So anyway, I hope that answers your question. Next up is Olga's Autumn Stocking by Plum Street Sampler. I am also stitching this with Yvette, and the hope is that we will be able to get Olga's Autumn Stocking finished by the end of March. And originally I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to. I'm going to have to work on this thing night and day. But what I realized yesterday is that I'm not that far away. I mean, yes, I still have I have to finish the big giant orange pumpkin, and then I do have the big giant black and white pumpkin. But honestly, I mean, I'm not that far away, and that I don't even know how that happened. Because originally I was thinking I still had a long ways to go, but you know, I don't. So here's the pattern, and here is where I've been working. So I went in, and because this particular pumpkin, there are 4 pages that the symbols go across. So I just went and outlined the whole pumpkin, and now I'm just going in and filling it in. So I don't have that far to go, and I am super excited. And I think that I will be able to finish it or be really close. I mean, if I can't finish it by the 31st of March, you know, it'll be shortly thereafter. But I'm stitching this on a piece of 36 count Vintage Pearled Barley with all of the called for threads, 1/2. And I love it. Love it, love it. And it looks like I noticed the other day that Olga still needs her whiskers, and I actually don't know if I'm going to put her whiskers in or not. I haven't decided yet. These are the threads that I am using right here. These are the threads that I'm using. Just a beautiful fall palette. Very beautiful. Next up is my morning stitch, and that is Sweet Finch by Samplers Not Forgotten. This was a kit that was gifted to me last year, and I thought it was perfect. Even before the Ice-mageddon happened, I was ready for spring to get here, and so I ended up starting, let's see, I think I showed it in my last video that it was going to be my morning stitch. I did try to start it during Ice-mageddon, but I think the day that I tried to stitch it, I just could not focus. I couldn't get my mind to like compute stitches. So I only had like, you know, maybe 4 stitches on the whole thing, and I actually ended up ripping those out like 3 times, and I just finally gave up. But here is my progress. So I don't have too much farther to go. There is just over here there's like some fancy stitches, and it's just like back stitching, but it's done in a chevron pattern. And so I just have that to add right here. And so I'm going to try maybe this weekend to sit down for an hour and maybe put those stitches in. If not, then I'll work on it on Monday. But this has been keeping me company all this past week, and I love it. These are the threads that came with it, and I'm so happy I'm finally could use I guess this is a thread keeper that Dora sent me, and I love it. Love it, love it. Now I'm trying to figure out what I can possibly stitch, where I can put them on here. So those are the threads, and I think Sweet Finch is stitched on a piece of 36 count Beige by Weeks Dye Works. And I'm thinking that it's also, the threads are also Weeks Dye Works as well. I am going to finish it into a pillow when it's done. The kit came with the fabric, and there's like some rickrack and some beads. So I plan on finishing it like the kit. And I'm excited because it will be the first spring stitch that will go in my naked trench bowl, since I didn't get any winter stuff stitched. And then last but not least is Autumn at Heartland Hollow. I started this one back the beginning of January. So by started, it became I already had it started, and it was in my mocking basket of whips. And once I had finished, what was I working on? Oh, Brian's stocking. Once I had finished Brian's stocking, and then also once I had finished the anniversaries of the Heart series, I decided my weekend whip would be Autumn Hawkhorn Hollow. I started this back in 2017, I think. It was either 2017 or 2018. I had the top done, and then the first block was finished. So on the first weekend in January, I started the second block, and I was able to finish it. So all told, I worked on it for 7 weekends. Now, of the 7 weekends, there were 2 where my average stitching time was only about 45 minutes to an hour. So I don't think it would have taken me all 7 weekends if I would have had the usual 2. So I should have worked on it 4 hours over the course of the weekend, and I was finding that I wasn't able to do that. So I'm curious in the next block if I become a little bit more dedicated and, putting those 2 hours in on Saturday and then 2 hours in on Sunday, how far or how long it would take me to get the next block done. So I'm stitching mine on a piece of 40 count vintage country mocha with the DMC conversion. And I did make some changes. So right in the middle between the 2 birds, there's supposed to be an owl, and I left the owl off because my plan is when I get this finished, I will put the date there. And also the little birds that go up the sides of the barn, I did not put their feet on. I like them better without. So there is that. I am going to set Autumn aside for a short while. And I do have the option to do this. So the way that I do my rotation is if it, since I finished the block, even though I'm still working on the whole piece, I finished a block. And so I gave myself the option that when I did finish the block, I could swap it out for something else that is in my mocking basket. But I do plan on going back to this. What I decided to do, so this block right here is the next one. And I'm not really loving the field that is underneath the horses. I kind of want to change, I want to change the colors. I don't want that, because I looked at the DMC and I don't want that color palette. So I want to be able to take some time to go in and re-pull the colors. And I don't want to rush through and just pull a bunch of colors just to start it tomorrow. I want to kind of take my time and go through my box of DMC and just kind of repick the colors. And also this particular block right here, I also am going to make a couple of changes to it. So my plan, and the change is going to be the grass as well. So I just want to take some time to do that. I don't want to rush through it because these blocks, they're very labor intensive, and I kind of wish I would have re-pulled the colors for the second block is too. There's a couple of colors in there, like the field. I would not have went with that color of brown. So the next 2 blocks, I want to go ahead and pull the colors for them, change a few things around, and then my plan is that when I do sit back down to start stitching this, I'm going to stitch the whole row and then take a break and work on something else, and then, do it that way. So that way I'm still excited to get back to it and, looking forward to it. So for the meantime, it's just going to kind of sit for a little while and just chill out, and and then that'll give me enough time to not only work on something else from the mocking basket, but it'll give me time to kind of switch around some of the colors and make sure that I'm really happy with it, and then I'll get back to stitching it. Also the barn, I guess it's a house, the salt box house. I really love the mustard color that is the house, and I want to make sure that the color that I pull is really reflective of that mustard color, because I think the DMC I don't remember what the color is, but I think I want it to be a little bit more mustardy. So yeah, I just want to play with the block a little bit, and I want to give myself enough time to do that. So in the meantime, my plan is to work on Feast of Friendship by Blackbird Design. So I started this back in the fall of the year. I started it after seeing Lori Holt and Christy from Crosshatch Quilts. They were stitching it together to celebrate their friendship, and then it sort of, exploded into a stitch along, and I did start it, and I was never able really to get back to it, and I definitely want to. And I would like to get it done. So the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to work on Feast of Friendship until it's done, and then I'm going to go back to Autumn at Hawthorne Hollow, because I do want to have this done. It's a Thanksgiving piece, so I do want to have it done in time for Thanksgiving, in time to, frame it. I'm stitching this on a piece of 36 count Heartland with some of the called for and some that I substituted in. So I still have quite a ways to go. Somebody on Facebook or Instagram said there was like 3,000 stitches in that house, or 6,000 stitches, or something like that. It's just this huge amount of stitches. So I definitely want to give myself some time to finish it. But I love it. I love the colors. It's such a great palette of colors. And here they are here. And also some of these colors I'm waiting for some of my other projects, and so it would be nice to finish this so I can free up some of these threads to go into their other projects. So I'm excited to get back to that, and again I'm going to stitch it until it is all finished, and then I will go back to Autumn at Hawthorne Hollow. And because I'm almost done with Sweet Finch, I have decided to stitch this. This is Project Quarantine with Thy Needle and Thread. I'm going to stitch this as my morning stitch. I'm just going to raid my thread stash, and I think some of the threads I do have, but there's a lot I don't. So I'm going to go raid my stash, and I'm going to pull different threads. It'll still be the same color palette. It'll just be, for instance, the blue is Chesapeake Bay, and I'm gonna use Gentle Arts Freedom or Midnight. One of those. I think it's Midnight. Maybe it is Midnight. I don't know. One of those. It's blue, and that's what I'm going to use. In fact, it's this blue here. Yes. So this will be the blue that I will use for their dresses. There is a Freedom because it's right here. So I wasn't going crazy. So chances are I probably will use Freedom because it looks similar to the Chesapeake. So, and I think the red is going to be Schoolhouse, I think. So I need to do that this weekend and get that ready for me to stitch it. So in my last video, I showed you the finish that I had. It was Addie Sutton by Country Rustic Primitives. I don't have her paperwork anymore because it's a PDF download, and once I had her fully finished and all of that, I recycled the pattern. But she is still available, and I will put a link to Country Rustic Primitives Etsy shop down below. But I showed her finished in my last video, and I stitched her on a piece of 32 count Confederate Gray by Weeks, and I stitched her with all of the called for DMC, and here is her finish. So since then, I ended up coffee dyeing the cross-stitched piece, and because it is DMC, it didn't, it doesn't run. But then I baked her in the oven until she was dry, and ironed out the wrinkles. And then what I used to do is, and I had this question asked a couple of different times, and I'm sorry that there's so much that I still have left to do. I haven't even went into my last video, and I like to go in and read the comments and heart them, and I just have not had a second to do that. And then I've posted pictures of like her and a few other things, and I get questions asked, and I'm really behind. I mean, that whole week that I lost, I'm still catching up. So I apologize if I have not got to your question. I'm not ignoring you. I will eventually make my way there and answer your question. But in case you watch my video and you ask this question, I used to use the sticky board when I went and mounted any of the pieces that I was going to frame. But I find that, and I watched a couple of tutorials on lacing, and I find that I really, really like to lace my pieces. So that's what I've been doing for the past like year and a half probably. And the way that I do it is I get a piece of mat board and I cut it, I cut it this size. And then I take a piece of batting and I lay it over the mat board, and then I lay this piece over the top of it. And then I carefully flip it over and I begin lacing it. And as I'm lacing it, I'm looking, I'm flipping it over to check the front to make sure that it's, it's even, and I can make any adjustments as I'm lacing it. And that's how I do it. And then I just go ahead and stick it in, and, there's no glue or anything. And then that way, if I do decide down the road that I want to do something different with it, it's just really easy to pop it out and pop the stitches. So that is what I did. The frame, so you can see Parson Brown right here. So when I ordered the frame for Parson Brown, it was cheaper to buy a 2-pack of this frame right here. So this is the second frame. So it looked exactly like that one. So what I did last Sunday, I think it was. Yeah, it was last Sunday. I painted it with some black folk art paint that I have. And once it dried, I gave it 2 coats. And once it dried, I took a piece of sandpaper and I just roughed it. I just went and I just roughed it. And I just kind of roughed it so it looked like it's, old and crusty. And that's what I did. So it was just a really, it's a great way, if you have a frame and you want to change, it's a great way to, kind of change the frame and do something different. But that is my Addie Sutton finished. In my last video, I also had a giveaway. And the giveaway was to celebrate a couple of different things. I celebrated the 2 years on Flosstube. I celebrated the 8,000 subscribers, and there was one other reason why I celebrated it, and I can't remember what it is now. But I had 2 things that I was giving away. First thing is a chart, and that is Easter Parade by Blackbird Designs, and the winner is Marion Haddad. So I apologize, Marion, if I have said your last name incorrectly. I asked my husband how I should pronounce that, and he thought that it was also Haddad. So hopefully, I don't know, I'm pretty sure I butchered it. So if I did, I apologize. Marion, I will comment on your comment, but congratulations. And then I also had this quilt bag that was sent to me by Primrose Cottage Quilts or Primrose Cottage Stitches. And the winner of that is Amy Seniva, and I'm pretty positive I butchered that. What I will do is I will put both of your guys' names down below, and then that way you can contact me. But Amy Seniva, I'm sure I should have. Sometimes you can go on Google and you can put the name in, and then like the Google disembodied voice will tell you how to pronounce it, and I forgot to do that. So I'm apologizing if I butchered your name, but I will scroll your guys' name down below. And congratulations to both of you. If you can contact me via email at pumpkinhollowquilting@gmail.com and send me your address, I will get your prize out in the mail to you next week, or as soon as you send me the information. What I will do is I will give you 2 weeks to contact me, and if I do not hear from you by my next video, I will redraw, and I will go from the original group of comments and redraw. But congratulations, ladies. Thank you so much for entering the giveaway. I really appreciate it. But I have a giveaway for this video as well. So what happened was, over the past couple of weeks, I hit 9,000 subscribers, and I want to celebrate that because that is amazing. And I am so very grateful to all of you guys who come across my channel and you like what you see, so you decide to hit the subscribe button so you can come back every 2 weeks to see what I am up to. I appreciate it so, so much. And I decided I can't let another milestone go by and not do a giveaway. So what I've decided to do is I'm giving away 2 project bags. So these are kind of like springy type project bags. This was done out of fabric that came from my stash that I have had for a while, and I thought it's not doing me any good hanging out in my stash. I needed to make it into something fun. So I've made these 2 project bags, so there will be 2 winners. And in order to be eligible, you must answer the question, which is. So in my last video, the question that I asked was about like floss tubers. And thank you to everybody who commented. And I'm really behind in my floss tube, but I plan on checking out. There was a lot of people that I do already watch, but there was a lot that I had never heard of before. So I plan on checking all of those channels out. And thank you so much for all of your suggestions. But in following with the sort of like YouTube theme, I thought it might be kind of interesting to find out if there is anybody that you watch on YouTube that's not a floss tuber. These are just like other genres that are on YouTube that you like to watch. So for me, there are 3 that I enjoy watching that are not floss tube related. The first one is Lindsay Holliday, and she does a lot, well, her whole thing is like historical people. So she'll do like the queens of England or the kings of, you know, Italy, or, you know, different like time periods and kings and queens and things like that. And they're not like super long. They go anywhere from 7 to half hour. And she just basically kind of runs through, she'll show you pictures and she talks about, you know, different things about the people. It's very, very interesting. And there's 2 other people. Originally I was only going to talk about one, but I'm like, I watch all 3 of these people. So the other 2 people that I watch are both, I guess they're sort of outdoor type channels. The first one is The Wandering Woodsman. He is out of Pennsylvania, and so and I don't know how I ended up starting to watch him or why, but you sort of get invested, you know, you watch a couple of them and before you know it, you're like, oh, I need to sit down and find out what's going on with Cliff this week. So he goes and it's just all outdoors. He does a lot of hiking. It's like outdoor, you know, he will do, like right now he's doing a French and Indian Wars, where he's taking you to some of the sites of some of the battles, and he did like forts and things like that. So it's all sorts of like outdoor type stuff, but he's kind of interesting to watch, and at this point I'm invested. And then the other person that I watch, it's more, I think it might be like a family, and that's Sidestep Adventures out of Georgia. And they also do a lot of outdoor stuff. They go like out in the middle of nowhere and they'll find abandoned cemeteries, and they'll kind of sort of, you know, bring attention to them again, and so that they're not forgotten anymore. And that's just it's very interesting. And they also will, you know, they might find old houses or like abandoned plantations, or they even went to an old Civil War fort. They were able to find it, and they kind of explain like where the battlements and things used to be, and just things like that, just kind of like outdoor type stuff. And they also have another channel where they're restoring a 140-year-old house. So those are the 3 that I watch. I do also watch the History Underground, and I think he's also from Pennsylvania, and he does I mean, his channel's like awesome. I mean, he goes to all different types of places and things like that. So those are some of the other YouTube channels that I watch, and I'm just curious what some of yours are. And, you know, just let me know in the comment section down below. If Flosstube is the only thing that you watch and you don't watch any other YouTube, the question that you can answer to be entered in to win one of the project bags is tell me the project you're working on right now. Easy peasy. So all you have to do to enter, of course, is to answer the question, be a subscriber, like the video, and then in 2 weeks I will announce 2 winners. So thank you so much for entering, and I hope that didn't get too long-winded in my mind as I was doing this video. It wasn't, but I'm curious because I watch Flosstube, but I also watch other things on YouTube as well, and I'm just curious if you do as well. I just realized that I forgot to show some Happy Mail that I got over the past 2 weeks. It got buried underneath the linen, my projects. It was over here the whole time, and I don't know why I forgot to mention it. But I ended up getting a Valentine's Day card from Michelle Hutchins, so thank you so much. This came in the middle of us. Oh no, it was at the beginning. Did it come on Valentine's Day? Yes, I think it did. I think it came on Valentine's Day. Our Valentine's Day was not fun. So anyway, but thank you so much. This was a wonderful bright spot in my day, in my dark day. And then I received some Happy Mail from someone who wants to remain anonymous. And she sent me Merry Christmas by Blackbird Designs. And I also had purchased the one that just came out. Was it right before Christmas? I pre-ordered it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch both of them, and in my dining room I'm going to have one on either side of the window. So I love it. Love it, love it. She also sent me this little, it's a pin cushion. And it is a kit from Primitive Gatherings. It's called Point Beach Pincushion. And so there is a picture of it. And it came with all of the wool to make it. So that is going to be fun. And I think it'll be perfect in my trench bowl. And I know I'm gonna have a lot of people ask, what's my trench bowl? So it's basically just a narrow wood trench. It's a trench bowl, and I bought it at Hobby Lobby, and I brought it home and I distressed it, and right now it has pine cones and a candle in it and nothing else. And then she also sent me this Perfect 10 quilt book, and so this is packed full of quilts that you can make with a layer cake, and I already have 2 that I know that I want to make. So it was so sweet. And then she sent me this adorable little notepad. So fun. So thank you so much. So as far as the cross stitching goes, that is all I have to show for this video. I was thinking that this video was not going to be very long, but I think it's probably going to end up being about the same length as all of my other ones, which I'm very surprised. Because I thought I'd be lucky if it would hit half an hour, but I guess I just had a lot to say. And again, I hope you didn't mind that I talked a little bit about, ice apocalypse. It was very traumatic. And I do not want to repeat it anytime soon. So at this point, I am going to show quilting wise what I have been working on. So if you're not interested in seeing that, this is a great stopping off point. Don't forget to enter the giveaway. I will be back in 2 weeks to show what I have been working on. And I hope you have a great 2 weeks. If you want to see quilting wise what I have been working on, then stay tuned. All right, so when I paused the video, there was a police car that went by, and so Freddie is on the back of the couch right now, and he was barking. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna power through. So if he starts barking, I do apologize. But anytime he hears any sort of like emergency vehicle, he's like right at the window barking. So hopefully, he laid down, so hopefully he's done. But it usually takes him a few minutes, and then he settles back down. He's always on alert. So, because of the power outage, a lot of the stuff that I talked about that I wanted to accomplish over these 2 weeks did not happen. One of them was the Forevermore block of the month. I have not had a chance to work on those blocks yet. I also have not had a chance to get to the Temecula album quilt. I think I'm on the fourth or fifth month. I haven't had a chance to work on that one yet. Right before the power outage, like that night when my video was like processing on YouTube, I did manage to make So Temecula Quilt Company has they have these, it's called Mini Mondays. And so every Monday there's always something different. And the second Monday of the month, they have what is called the Mini Monday Sewing Bee. And originally, I completely had misunderstood, and they actually did print, or they did put out an email like explaining it, because I guess a lot of people were also confused about, like the Mini Mondays. And then they kind of broke it down and explained it. But I remember I had showed, I had the print off of what the block was, or what the February's block was, and I cannot find that print off anywhere. So I don't have any way of showing you what they're like. This is what it looks like. But the Mini Monday Sewing Bee block was called Broken Dishes, and I did manage to get those made. So here is the first one, and it looks like that when they have the sewing bee, it looks like there's going to be 4 blocks. And I don't know that for sure, but I'm guessing because the first month had 4 blocks and this month had 4 blocks as well. So I was able just to kind of dive into my Civil War reproduction, and I just pulled some fabrics that I like together. So I was able to get those made. And then, so my friend Retha and I, we always have this tradition when we have a snow day, we always work on a project together. And we had picked out our Snowmageddon project, and we were really looking forward to it because we were supposed to have 5 days of snow. And so we decided to make something a little bit bigger. It was my turn to pick. And so we decided, because, we were going to have this big snow day event, that I was going, and that we, instead of just doing something small, usually we do like a tabletop or even something even smaller. And because we had like all this time, we thought, well, let's do something a little bit bigger. So we decided to do the Secret Santa, is it the sew along? Yeah, Secret Santa sew along. And this, I know I showed this sometime around Christmas, because they, Temecula re-released it. They did like 12 days of Christmas, and this was one of the days of Christmas. And so they re-released they put all the patterns together, and then that way if you wanted to do it, all the patterns were right there. So we decided to stitch this because we were going to have a lot of time, and it would be perfect to sort of help 5 days of snow go by faster. Well, we started cutting out. I think we started cutting our quilts out on Tuesday, and I was able to do some cutting Tuesday and Wednesday, and then I wasn't able because I was working. Maybe I did it Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday and Thursday I worked on, beginning to cut out the quilt. All right, sorry about that. I had to pause the video really fast because there was a power truck sitting in the driveway, and of course Freddie had to bark. And I didn't know if they were gonna come in or come up to the door and say something, but I think they were just turning around. Anyway, so as I was saying, I think we had decided so we started cutting, and I think I cut out the first 2 weeks worth of blocks or of fabric. And then my plan was that on Friday I would do my video, and then the next day on Saturday, that's when I would start beginning to assemble my quilt. Well, of course we lost power and I wasn't able to do any of it. She also lost power, but I think she got her power back a couple days before I did, and so she was able to start. Well, I decided to go ahead this past week and begin assembling the blocks. I really tried really hard yesterday to get through all of like the assembly, or like assembling the different elements of the like the quilt blocks, and then at least get one of the blocks put together so I could show in my video, but unfortunately it just didn't happen. So I do have them all right here. I decided to do my quilt in creams and browns and blues with a little pop of yellow in the center. I'm doing it all out of reproduction, so here is what the block looks like. I'm really hoping it's going to turn out okay. I know that color palette is not everybody's cup of tea, but when I started thinking about this quilt, all I could think about was it being brown, cream, blue, and then just with that little pop of like orangey yellow in the middle. And I couldn't get it out of my mind. I tried really hard to, maybe do a different color combination, but I don't know, I just kept going back, and I finally just decided I'm gonna go. This is the little 9-patch blocks. These are what took me a while, because you had to make a whole bunch of them, and they're so super tiny. I love them. I love them. I really hope they're going to be okay. And I really hope that in my next video, I have the whole quilt put together and show. Then you just had to make some of these little 4 patches, and I have a stack of them all. And then I did start cutting out for the very last, like week's clue, whatever you want to call it. I started cutting that out. Last night I just have to cut the blue strips, and then I will sew those together. It is this one. I have to make these blocks next. And then once I get those blocks made, then I can start assembling. So I'm hoping maybe on Sunday I'll be able to sit down, and that's what the quilt looks like when it's all done. Only instead of reds, white, and greens, mine is going to be tan, brown, tan, cream, and blue. So I'm hoping that it's going to look okay when I get it done. Again, I know that's not everybody's color palette, but I just couldn't get those colors out of my mind, and I just want to have a quilt that is in those colors. So the good thing about reproduction fabrics is they all play very well with each other, so hopefully it will play well as a whole entire quilt. I don't know, I like those blue and tan with cream. I just like them. I don't know. I like the look of them. I like them. I'm kind of the same way as I like blue and pink, the reproduction together. So I don't know. I just like them. So I hope it's going to be okay and it's going to look good. And I really, 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 really hope I have it completely finished to show you in my next video, because I'll have 2 full weeks to like continue putting it together and then get it quilted. So anyway, as far as the quilting goes, that is sadly all I have to show you. My plans for the next 2 weeks are going to be to work on the Forevermore block of the month, those blocks, and then also the Temecula Quilt album blocks. And so I will have those to show you. And I think the second, I don't know, there'll be 2 Mondays. Yeah, there'll be 2 Mondays. So I should have my Temecula, the 3rd block should come out, and hopefully I'll have that one done. I guess it depends on how labor intensive it is, because Temecula likes all those fiddly pieces, as you can tell from the basket here. So guys, that brings me to the very end of my video. I thank you so much for stopping by today. I appreciate it so much. Don't forget to enter to win the giveaway. Hopefully the question in which I'm seeking, I hope it makes sense. Basically, I just want to know who else on YouTube that you like to watch, and if you don't watch anybody other than Flosstubers, what are you working on? And once again, you must be a subscriber, like the video, all the usual rules. And I guess that brings me to the very, very end. And I hope you guys have a wonderful 2 weeks. I hope you get lots of stitching done, and I hope where you are the weather is getting much better, because a lot of the United States was part of that big, massive cold front, and so a lot of you guys got a ton of snow, which I am a little jealous about. So, okay guys, well, I will see you all again in 2 weeks. If you want to see what I'm up to in between videos, you can follow me on Instagram. I'm Pumpkin Hollow Quilts, or I do have a Facebook page. It is Pumpkin Hollow Quilting. And I know there's something I'm forgetting. I don't know. I don't know what I'm forgetting, and I'm going to go because I see that it is well after 3 o'clock, so I have to wait for this video to upload. Anyway, I will see you guys again in 2 weeks. Bye.